Today, my friends, we're looking at my latest and my last state of the collection on YouTube. Don't worry, I will not retire. I guess I am that kind of guy who's not afraid to buy a watch for sure. I think 98% of the watches I review I own in general, so there is a lot to see this year. Plus, there are more than 10 pieces which you've never seen before. My table is full of watches. And it's not a small table, so let's go. The most influential watch for my collection this year was the Tudor Black Bay Chronograph in steel and gold. This isn't a small watch on the wrist despite its 41mm diameter, but it's such a well-worn, contrasted and good-looking piece with a racing vibe and a vintage inspired case finished into a semi-luxurious look. I simply enjoy it and I wear it with confidence due to the robust build and the higher waterproofness. I truly feel it like a complete watch. I recommend. Basically, this Black Bay Chrono provided me the confidence to reconsider chronographs and appreciate them more, and I started to look for distinct iconic chronographs to add them in my journey. For example, one of the most important brands in this niche is IWC with their pilots, and their specific Valjoux left-hand side subdials with the separate windows for the day and the date. Iconic and beautiful executed. Although this is a pre-model of the actual pilot chronograph lineup, I just love this one because it looks more like an instrument than a luxurious chronograph, and I just love their taperless yet comfortable bracelets. The next one is the Hanhat 417 ES. I did a review for it and it kind of felt it was a sponsored video, but I don't do such things. This was a purchase which simply excited me, combining many worlds and personal preferences into a single watch. This is one of the rotation watches for me. It's extremely well sized, has a strong personality, it is compact, purposeful, well contrasted and loomed. What can I say, the perfect German alternative as the IWC for the classic Swiss chronos. But yeah, technically IWC is Swiss. And then this was quite an important purchase for me. Imagine, after 9 years of collecting, I decided to buy myself a Speedy Professional. I'm currently excited about the model, and I explained in the previous review, every time I put it on the wrist I'm amazed by the way the Heslite interacts with the contrasted dial, but also by its adaptive case which works with all sorts of straps and colors. I have evenings when I take the watch head and the strap box and play with all sorts of colors and strap combos until I find a new Speedy. And then there is the Speedmaster with a Valjoux movement. It's still part of my collection. Before getting the Moonwatch I was thinking honestly to sell it, but after I bought the professional model I appreciate it more as a dressy alternative to the special iconic mechanical one. The next watch is the Heuer Monaco. This is a very special watch in a limited edition with a Heslite box without the Tag brand on it. In the 90s, Tag Heuer made 2 editions on this theme, a bicompax version which I reviewed it, and this tricompax. I did own the modern Monaco, but it's honestly a night and day difference between them. This Heslite version wears way smaller, it's lightweight and sticks better on the wrist surface. I recommend it because it's one of the least expensive Monacos out there. And then I still have my Edifice chronograph, which was recently reviewed on the channel. I like its panda silver dial and the way the case blends with various straps, and my preferred combo is on a curved rubber strap. I feel it's super relaxed and comfortable on the wrist. Just love it. I still refresh Deluxe and Tissot's websites to check if they released any straps for this bad boy. Sadly, I do have the same opinion about this watch. It's beyond beautiful with this waffle dial colored in olive, but hard to accommodate it more than 1 hour on the wrist. So yeah, please make rubbers or leathers for this model. And I still have the Breitling homage from AliExpress, which is basically a mechanical chronograph with a failed start-stop pusher, but I also still have this beautiful sector chronograph from the 90s. There is also a watch which just arrived. I don't want to spoil it because it's a special one for sure, and this will be separately reviewed on the channel, so stay tuned. Now we're moving to a category which was always important to me, the explore and travel watches, field watches, mountaineering watches and GMTs. So for this category, probably one of the most representative is this 5 digits Rolex Explorer 2, which back in the days this watch was destined for exploring but also for traveling through time zones. This is one of my preferred watches for my collection because it truly represents what Rolex meant, a well-crafted and a well-sized watch which feels more like a dedicated instrument than a luxurious watch as it is today. Plus, it is extremely comfortable. And to stay in the same polar theme, the Khaki Field Expedition is a watch which you've never seen on my collection. It was proposed in a trade and it remained in my collection because I fell in love with it. I liked the idea of an extremely legible dial with a compass offered on a thin case profile. This watch definitely needs a review because there is quite a lot to explain about it. I also have the Tudor Ranger, which I got in a trade as well. I can't say I fell for it in the beginning, but the more I was wearing it, the more it made sense, especially if you unsee it as a Rolex Explorer alternative. I was explaining in its dedicated review that if you add a canvas strap, it feels more like a Panerai than a Rolex Explorer, so brilliant. The Tudor Black Bay 58 GMT came out of nowhere in my collection, as well as a result of a trade. This feels like a complete watch. It's nicely toned, it's elegant, robust, well-sized, Metis movement, but it feels more like a one-and-done watch than sitting as a GMT alternative on a large collection. But despite all this Coke GMT still gets enough wrist time, I'd say more than my Rolex Explorer 2 Polar. Every time I see it, it kind of lures me to put it on the wrist. The next watch is the Tissot World Timer made by Albini Prasa. This is a special watch because it was assembled by myself and it still works in cost parameters, so yeah, a special one in my collection for sure. The Expedition GMT was Timex's surprise this year and one of the best affordable GMT releases in my opinion. I really felt I wanted to have it in my collection next to its robust brother, the Timex Expedition North, which I always confuse its name in reviews. I keep saying Timex North Adventure, which is actually the limited edition ZRC diver which I own. And then there is the Stealth Seiko Alpinist, which is so cool, and you didn't know I own this one either. When you put the stealth version on the wrist, it's such a contradiction because it's exactly the same watch as the stainless steel version but toned and colored differently. Also, I love how the active lume colored markers blends very well with this green strap. It creates an interesting dynamic to the watch. I love it. If you've seen the recent episode with 5 watches which changed my watch collecting preferences forever, through the Seiko SKX I've discovered the love for tonneau watches. Basically, you'll see from there where I ended up today. I'll leave the link to the video on the top right corner. So the Seiko SKX 007 was indeed the watch which introduced me for good in the Seiko world, and the Japanese brand has a relevant historic collection into cushion watches, so I had to have a permanent one in my collection. For me, was indeed a goal with moderate priority to grab a modern SLA 033, the Captain Willard reissue, so I did it. I like Seiko because their premium releases are accurate in size, trying to offer the best vintage experience. This is one of Seiko's main pillars as identity, so it's cool to experience it for sure. But then I tried on the Uemura version, which is a modern take of the iconic Captain Willard. Initially, I disliked the color combo, but then I started to wear it more and appreciate it. Especially having 20mm between the lugs, it wears comfy on its bracelet, on the rubber, even on NATOs. So I leaned to keep this one in the favor of the SLA 033 because I wouldn't keep both. Imagine that. This beautiful red Certina DS2 is one of the designs which I respect a lot, especially because it's a modern reissue of their iconic DS2, a super robust watch which lasted for so many years. Just look at how well it is preserved after more than 50 years. That's why I have a huge respect for Certina for their turtle and their double security system. The Certina DS3 chronograph is a limited edition released many years ago and it sits in the tonneau category for obvious reasons. There is also a 1000 meters waterproof version which I am chasing to grab as well, but yes, this one alongside the 3 hands version was basically a reissue after their iconic PH1000M, the Tick-Tight model. And then there is this spectacular watch which you've never seen on the channel either. It's the Mido TV Big Date, the limited edition. This is such a quirky, nicely executed version. I couldn't resist, and once it entered in our local stores, I immediately bought it. I enjoy this model for sure because of its shape and the colored straps, which are creating a total different feeling on the wrist compared to a rounded dial watch. Mido is a brand which I closely keep an eye on because they are super creative lately. This Citizen Zenshin, my friends, is the best affordable watch of the year, hands down. the value and the finishing of this watch for the price asked, it's simply unbeatable, and I believe I was one of the first content creators which really boosted the watch on YouTube, especially the green color version. But for good reason, it was a game changer this year. And I also have this pocket watch which I received this year from my brother. Nice. Now we're moving to the vintage inspired divers, which is pretty much tied up to the same video episode with 5 influential watches. Basically, this Certina DSPH200M with a Hasselite glass was the diver which introduced me in the world of skin divers, the modern reissues with box crystals, an important genre in my watch journey which influenced me to explore this area, and my god, how many skin divers I had. The only Tudor watch which I wanted to have it as brand new, so I paid retail for it, was the Tudor Black Bay 54. As you know, I am a fan of accuracy, and although this is not a one-on-one reissue with the 1954 Tudor Oyster Prince, has its own charm as a small-sized diver which works as a complete everyday watch and looks very good on various strap options. And what is important, I still love it. The Doxa Sub 300 in carbon was my most worn watch last year, for obvious reasons. This is such a cool combination between the vintage lines and the high-tech materials. I think this is quite an experience on the wrist, and it's very different than stainless steel, that I can guarantee. And then I did a comparison video between the 39mm and the 42mm Legend divers, and in the end my choice was to go with accuracy. As a result, I chose to keep the 42mm Legend diver. The 39mm was in competition with the 62 mass and the Black Bay 54, and apparently Tudor won. I traded both the 39mm LLD and the 37mm 62 mass and kept this 42mm Legend diver, and I'm glad it happened like this. And then I am inserting this 40s cosmonauts from time to time in my videos, and people are asking me about it. I bought it in mint condition despite its age for around 600 bucks. Imagine this is from the tritium era. It is a nicely well-sized watch, the color of the dial is simply amazing, not to mention the coating of the crystal, it feels it doesn't have any. It really feels you can insert the finger and touch the hands. I didn't review it so far because I felt it doesn't have scalability for you. For instance, it's quite hard to find one in good condition. Plus, they're quite expensive. But yeah, maybe it's more about understanding what Fortis was doing back in the days and lesser about the willing to collect one. This one just arrived, the Zodiac Super Seawolf. When I've seen it, I said, wow. I honestly was chasing the brand for a long time. A Seawolf was on my agenda, and after I saw the Netflix documentary with the Zodiac Killer, I said it's time to grab one for myself. So stay tuned, you will see it is worth being reviewed. There is enormous value for this watch, especially for $600-ish. Certina again, a new one. I bought after a while the Sea Conservancy PH500M. I was looking to rebuy the platform and I got a good deal. I did regretted selling the orange dial back in the days, but I'm glad it came back in a different color version. Swiss microbrand with Dracula's roots. Let's go! I still haven't enjoyed both parent divers. Pretty cool how the brand developed from the classic designs to a more modern take. This year the Regia was launched inspired from the Regia calendar, a diver which is a different alternative to the classic watchmaking. And then I still have the Chronosport homage, the diver worn by Magnum PI in the legendary TV series. I had a streak this year, wearing constantly this watch for a week, reminding me how much I love the morning case designs. I also kept the 90s Pro Masters, these Solar Citizens. I predict this is the type of design which will follow in the trends, and I can't be more than excited. Got pretty tired of the faceted watches and the AP hype, honestly. And yes, I still have the sister in homage of the Doxa Sub 600T. Let's go tool watches. I basically made a split between the 20 bar divers with the retro appeal and made a new category for these tool watches. The first representative one is the Tudor Pelagos LHD, which was a must. I concluded a long time ago. I loved it since day one, and since I have it, it became a permanent watch in my rotation. Being one of my most worn divers, and despite its beefier size, it wears pretty good and works as a practical everyday watch. It's legible, a strap monster, a left-hand side crown. It's a pillar of my collection for sure. The ZRC Grand Fonds North Adventure is equally a special watch in my collection. It is rare, it is expensive, but yet It's a watch crafted and designed to withstand low temperature conditions. I am a fan of the brand, and no matter the sizing of my collection, a ZRT will always be there, I can assure you. The Zin U50 is a platform, also a brand which I respect a lot. I love my German watches for sure, but I admit I was ready to sell it in multiple occasions, but I always reconsider the decision and I'm glad I did it. This watch is different, has its own charm, and I think it can easily sit in any collection because there aren't so many similar watches as the U50. The Orient Ray 2 was the watch which surprised me a lot this year. I never considered to buy one, but when I did, I was quite impressed by its unique Japanese design and how well crafted it is for less than $200. The Seamaster 007 edition was an important purchase for me at the end of last year, not through the amount paid, but through the sensorial experience which this watch provides. And I'm glad Omega started to build on top of this model, recently offering stainless steel versions and that green bronze combo. Not the most legible watch, but this 007 version has all my respect. The vintage already 300M, which was present in 3-bone watches, is an important watch as well for me, especially since the brand brought back the waves on the modern SMPs. This watch feels crucial for the brand identity and I'm glad to own one. The Marine Master 300M Ninja returned to me. It was away for half of the year. This was away to a friend of mine and a friend of the channel. I love the Marine Master design, I love the contrasted dial and its modern high-tech appearance, but sadly on its standard rubber it's pretty hard to wear and enjoy, being tall, wobbly and heavy. C'est la vie. The Certina DS Action in 38mm is quite cool. I like the bicolor finishing and the blue accent specific for the Sea Conservancy edition. For 30 bar, I overall appreciate the sizing and the way it wears, this being a competitor in my collection with the U50 and the Black Bay 54. Sadly, not a lot of wrist time this year. And then in summer days, this Meiko is a cool watch to enjoy. The design is unique and has presence. Overall, a well-built watch which uses the toughest materials and features to serve as a tool, and it does. Let's visit now the elegant ones, basically wristwatches which can be worn in formal occasions, but on everyday occasions as well, why not? The Grand Seiko Shinbun is my silent enjoyment watch. Not very often sits on my wrist, but every time it does, it feels like wow. The dial is simply remarkable, and since I added a crocodile strap to it, I feel like I basically own a totally new watch. Because the case with those faceted lugs get isolated and it looks like a watch designed to sit on a brown crocodile strap. I feel that the watch looks better on this leather strap than on a bracelet, and yes, I am connecting better with the watch now. Another watch which you haven't seen in my collection is this JLC Reversa Monophase Classic. This was the correct sizing of the medium dressy Reversa for men. Currently the brand increased the size for the medium version and the sizing of this model is currently more representative for ladies. But I wore it in formal occasions every time I wanted a relaxed and a correct watch on the wrist. The medium Santos de Cartier is an important piece in my collection through its significance, but also personally for me. It's still here, it is enjoyed in special occasions, but I should wear it more often as an everyday watch because it's super comfortable and good looking, even in pajamas, why not? And then I have these 3 analog Casios, all 3 exciting affordable pieces with an interesting presence through their appealing colors. I really find them as cool formal watches crafted in a way to pop due to the color and the shine of the fluted bezel, but in the same time to remain discreet and purposeful on the wrist. Casio delivers. The Orient Bambino with a salmon dial is quite a complete watch by my standards. It looks like a formal watch, it's elegant but daring through its beautiful dial color and the addition of a bracelet. The watch is interesting in any angle, from the front, from the side, but also through the addition of an open case back which makes it pretty much an ideal GADA. I also have the Casio Edifice, and although it wasn't worn that much this year, it's a design which I like to own. I revisit it pretty often and I'm still amazed on how the brand managed to create such a slim 10-bar waterproof watch with a refined dial for $100. But yeah, I asked myself the same thing in regard to the Edifice Panda, valuable bronze. Let's go G-Shocks and Casios. I often review them, which means I enjoy these watches. The Rangeman was the sufficient spark that made me a watch collector, or a hoarder, can't figure it out. I have it for 10 years already, it traveled a lot, has seen all sorts of terrains, military reenactment, restoring a car from scratch, went in business travel, went in vacations, and it's still working flawlessly as the first time I put it on the wrist. Ladies and gents, the Rangeman. This G-Steel is one of the best watches G-Shock released in years. It's better sized and better finished than any steel Casio, and cheaper despite having exactly the same features. I appreciate the way it wears and the way it pops because it's faceted in a way to create a premium look on the wrist. And since I bought this watch, I started to focus involuntarily on special or limited edition G-Shocks. And from there I collected the G-Shock manga, the watch which defies the perception of a three-dimensional watch on the wrist. I did some cool shots in the review which prove the idea of a paper watch, because it does not generate too many shadows. It's a super cool piece. I also bought the NASA G-Shock model, also a watch which you haven't seen in my collection. An old forgotten platform for me which is based on the 6900 design. Truly a watch which needs to be reviewed because it provides a distinct way of wearing compared to the Casios or the squares. I decided to nominate this 40th anniversary G-Shock as my permanent go-to-the-wrist square. I have more squares, but this one will be my main one. I love its golden accented watch head as a throwback to the first and the second models, but also love how it sits in the combo with the composite G-Shock bracelet. I was actually surprised to see that limited or special edition G-Shocks are increasing in price after their release. Some of them are double or triple the price already. So if interested in speculating the market, this is a good example to go. And then I got 3 more squares, all solar. These watches know everything about the local gossip because they're always sitting in the window to capture light and stay charged. Apparently the yellow one didn't make it, but the point is, since they sit closer to the cat which is sitting on the window in general, I often forget about them. That's why I prefer battery powered Gs like the anniversary one, and that's why this is my go-to favorite. I made 2 custom Tetris Casios with the SKX mod parts. Unsure where is the second one, but I enjoyed making that episode where I completely disassembled these Casios and customized them. The future oak model, as I call it, it's still here, but for some reason it didn't get too much wrist time because the competition is tough here. And sadly this watch didn't see too much skin lately. The vertical square is a cool platform which I personally enjoy. This is actually a Bluetooth step tracker, but I can't say I'm that excited about the contrast of the dial. I get the design reasoning, but the contrast is very poor. The Casio step tracker in exchange is much cooler, has as well Bluetooth and can count laps and track steps. Much cheaper, slimmer and enjoyable. And then there is the big Casio square, which is quite exciting. This is a value proposition for the brand. I think the quality, the metallic bezel accent and the big numerals are quite nice, and the watch for sure it is worth $40. I have a classic Casio here. I think my girlfriend was looking for this for a while, but I'm not sure why she can't store her watches separately. And then my last 2 Casios are genuine wall timers, super affordable but upgradable, as well as I did with my Casio Real model cased into an SKX mod shell. So I think that's it, 70 plus watches. Now I can be accused of not providing more respect to these watches, and I agree. But don't get me wrong, I love my watches, I enjoy them and I wear them with pride. But sometimes I feel I don't provide the attention needed to ensure enough wrist time with some of the models, and it's unfair. More than that, I felt I went too deep into collecting and too comfortable in buying watches. $500, $1,000, $3,000 for a watch feels normality, and it shouldn't be like this. When it gets too comfortable or constant collecting reaches normality, I think emotions aren't involved anymore, and I don't think it's the right way to go. Watch collecting is about getting in love and building respect for the watch before buying, not the other way around. I believe I confused collecting for a purpose with hoarding. I think the motivation to buy all the watches I review is also wrong. I also believe if previously I had the thirst for knowledge to understand watches or brands, now I learned a lot and I should change this. So guys, don't be like me, don't buy watches relaxed, because that's not normality. That's why I feel this is my last large watch collection which I'll present on YouTube. It's not safe and it's not okay to be perceived as an example in the watch community as having plus 70 watches as being okay. So that's it with goods and bads. This was my state of the collection of 2024. Hope you enjoyed it. And yeah, if you're new around, please consider subscribing for future episodes. Thank you very much. Thanks for watching, and until next time. Be brave and stay safe, my friends.